And yes, by the way, I am joined IRL with Tom Sykes, aka the Royalist. Also, I've got Stanley, my fez-wearing parakeet, and the bumping and banging you might hear in the background is Doug, who has had to be sequestered in the bedroom and is angry about it. So we'll move on. So, meanwhile, I'm hoping you watch that King's speech because, Tom, that was a banger of a speech, man. I loved it.
It was a fantastic speech. I'm incredibly proud of King Charles. He did an absolutely amazing job, I thought.
He did. It actually kind of brought me to tears. Now, what were your favorite parts?
Well, I thought obviously there was a sort of tangential reference to the Epstein victims. It was blink and you'd miss it, frankly.
Well, read it out. We got it. I made him.
Well, he just kind of very obliquely said that, the purpose of this mighty citadel of democracy that he was speaking on was the protection of victims, which I think was the kind of fleeting, I would say, reference. Victims of some of the ills that so tragically exist in both of our societies today. I think, I don't know. I don't think it was necessarily enough. It clearly isn't enough, but probably better to have something in there than nothing.
Yeah, listen, something is better than nothing. I'm not mad at it. I kind of feel like, hey, at least he said something.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And
exactly.
I mean, what I really like though is that, I don't know, he was talking about working together. We have some other things. I made Tom highlight some stuff as we're watching. I'm like, highlight that one. But it was really, he deserved 100% the absolute standing ovation. I really think he did a fantastic job. It shows why he is king for all these people who have been saying, oh, Charles is weak, Charles is that. This was a firm, strong speech. And it brought me to tears a little bit. Tom, read out some more of the speech that you found to be especially strong. And, it definitely talked about the special partnership and the special relationship that was necessary. So we've got...
Yeah. I mean, I thought that the thing that was really great about it was that he made this point over and over again that our two nations, the United Kingdom and the US, we are on the same side. We have the same interests, we have the same values. And when we put our minds to it, we can achieve fantastic, fantastic things. Like, for example, Paula, this podcast, which is a very good example of the special relationship.
That's true.
But it's in a way, it's true because like our podcast, and when we do it together, is very much about the US and the UK, and it really is. And so I thought that he did a really good job. I think he hit a lot of the points. I thought, I was impressed that there was a kind of full-throated defense of NATO in there.
That was interesting because, President Trump is not the biggest fan. There were actually a couple moments where he brought Europe's perspective into Congress that our Congress has not been very open to, frankly.
Yeah. And I thought it was really good. He mentioned NATO by name. He mentioned Ukraine by name. So I think that these people who said, oh, he's just going to be Donald Trump's lickspittle and he's just going to, tiptoe around the edges. Not at all. I mean, he went full in on multi-faith. He went full in on inclusion. He went full in on the environment, saying, we've got to do more to protect. And it's quite clever the way he did it. He said, America has this fantastic natural resources, like we want to protect them and hand them down to it. It's very hard to argue with.
Yeah.
I thought that it was a really, really wonderful performance. I think that the king brought the kind of gravitas to it, but he also had the twinkle in his eye. He had this like grandfatherly friendliness, didn't he? Like
he did. It's like he went to the right acting coach. Not that he needs one, but you know what I mean. He went to the right media trainer. Now, here is exactly what he said. From the depths of the Atlantic to the disastrously melting ice caps of the Arctic, the commitment and expertise of the United States Armed Forces and its allies lie at the heart of NATO, pledged to each other's defense, protecting our citizens and interests, keeping North Americans and Europeans safe from our common adversaries. Our defense, intelligence, and security ties are hardwired together through relationships measured not in years, but in decades. That's when I kind of, and he reminded us that today, thousands of U.S. service personnel, defense officials, and their families are stationed in the United Kingdom as British personnel serve with equal pride across 30 American states. We are building F-35s together, and we've agreed the most ambitious submarine program in history, AUKUS, AUKUS, in partnership with Australia, a country of which I am also immensely proud to serve as sovereign. And he also reminded us we don't do these remarkable endeavors out of sentiment. We do so because they build greater shared resilience for the future, so making our citizens safer for generations to come.
Yeah, I mean, I felt, Paula, it's exactly what the king is there to do.
Yeah.
And I feel that, like, in some ways, people can say, oh, this is all about flattering Donald Trump, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, there's a part of it that is that. But there's another part which is about allowing the king to be flattered by Donald Trump is like an incredibly important part of this. And allowing Donald Trump to feel like he's rolling out the red carpet for the king. They say it was the same way it was rolled out by him. And it's, look, obviously there is an argument to be made to say, well, it's a bizarre state of affairs when these two septuagenarian men, their personal relationship is dictating world events. But we are where we are, and we are in the world that we're in. And I think that, we have to deal with the world as we find it, not as we want the world to be. I mean, and that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to make the best of a really, really difficult situation between the US and the UK. And I think he did a fantastic job.
I agree. And also what I liked is that he reminded us that I think he did a very slyly way. Now, listen, this speech was fantastic. It was clearly well written and not by AI, Harry, but he also reminded us that the world is, as of now, as almost divided as it was 50 years ago. In fact, he said, renewal starts today with security. The UK recognizes that the threats we face demand a transformation in British defense, aka he's agreeing that they need to step up their money spending on defense that the US can't face at all. That is why our country, in order to be fit for the future, has committed to the biggest sustained increase in defense spending since the Cold War, during part of which over 50 years ago, I served with immense pride in the Royal Navy. And I think and then he mentioned all of his forebears who also worked and served. And I think it's very interesting because he's burnishing his accolades while also saying, hey, we get it. We're pumping up our defenses. Don't worry. It's not, as Donald Trump has said in the past, it's not all America, but also saying, interestingly enough, that the world is in a state right now that is comparable to the Cold War. Putin and Russia, China, the lines are once again kind of semi-clearly drawn.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And of course, like the speech is largely written by the UK government. This is not don't confuse this with King Charles's, sitting up in bed at night, checking his cufflinks and wondering what he's going to write about. But we've been very clearly briefed by the palace that the king had an unusual amount of input into this speech. And I think you can see that very clearly. I mean, the defense stuff is very clearly, in a way, it's a sad indictment of Keir Starmer's government that they're not able to have this conversation with the US government themselves, and that the king is being sort of sent out to do the communication with them. But on the other hand, it does show that the UK understands what Donald Trump has been saying, in fairness, for, the better part of 10 years now, since Trump won, that the US is not prepared to fund the defense of Europe ad infinitum, the blank check. And
by itself.
And I think it's an entirely reasonable position.
100%.
Really. I mean, there are not, but there are definitely, and I think what Charles was doing very cleverly.
Love or hate Donald Trump, he's like a broken clock, right? Twice a day.
But what exactly? But what Charles was doing very cleverly, or what the government advisors who've written this speech were doing, very cleverly, was saying, yes, we agree with you, Donald Trump, but at the same time, don't forget that actually the UK has been there for you, and the biggest ovation that me and Paula noted as we were watching the speech was when Charles mentioned how the UK had been there for the US and how NATO had been there for the US in the aftermath of 9/11. And of course, Charles is due here in New York City, where I am, tomorrow, to visit the 9/11 memorial.
And what I loved he said about that, which actually brought me to tears, he said, during my visit to New York, my wife and I will again pay our respects to the victims, the families, and the bravery shown in the face of terrible loss. We stood with you. We stood with you then, and you finished.
And we stand with you now in solemn remembrance of a day that shall never be forgotten. And, I think it was a very powerful reminder of that, that terrible, terrible day that we all remember. And it was a reminder that NATO was there for the United States, and that the UK was there for the United States. And I liked the way that earlier in the speech, he said a very British expression where he said, by Jove, when we get together, by Jove, the mighty things we can do. And it's true, like when the US, and I think that's what Charles is trying to say, not just to the joint session of Congress, but to the American people. I think he's trying to say, look, it's not his role to tell the American people what to do or anything like that, but he has been invited on this one occasion to make some remarks to the American Congress and by extension, the American people. And what he's saying is, come on, guys, we're on the same side. We've achieved remarkable stuff in the past, from the Second World War to, throughout. We have been the saviors of the civilized world. Let's not throw it all away.
Yeah, I agree. And I apologize. I do get choked up with 9/11 still all these years after. Tom, I believe you were also in New York during night. Oh, no,
I came afterwards.
I was there. It was horrific. That's all I want to say about it. Now, the best thing I think about this visit so far, I love this so much. King Charles, Queen Camilla arrived yesterday, and there was a garden party. They visited some beehives. They met the creme de la creme of DC society, whatever you want to make of that. And the funniest thing to me, though, is that the Daily Mail made Donald Trump's life, nay, everything, his entire existence, when they pointed out that Donald Trump is indeed a distant cousin of King Charles, which I love so much.
How distant?
Very. It goes back to James II, but still, if we did a DNA test, there might be some markers. And I love it because Trump clearly loves the royals so much. And the royals are doing very well with him. Obviously, it's amazing. And of course, he's probably going to bring this up when Kate and William come for the 4th of July, the anniversary that America actually booted you Brits. But but it is I just think it's awesome that there is now a family link.
Yeah.
And that Donald's always wanted to live in the palace, and now perhaps
I love that the Daily Mail has gone into bat for the British people. Actually, you can actually be king.
Yeah.
If enough people. It's really cool. I think I've got to say, I think the whole and I have said from the beginning, I've always said that he should do the trip. Like, I thought these calls for him not to do it because we don't like Donald Trump, or we think that he offends us. I mean, it's get with the program, guys. This is real politics. This is the real world. You got to deal with the world as it is, not as you want it to be. And this is where the world is today, you know, on April 28th, 2026. This is where we are. And I think that the king has done a brilliant job. He's not, you know, we know that he's fighting cancer. I think that he is a terrific, I think he's been unbelievably brave, unbelievably courageous. I don't think that Donald Trump is naturally the kind of person that he would terrifically get along with. And I think that he and the Queen are putting their best foot forward. And I think that, please, God, may it just continue. May they just get through the next day.
Yes.
And
I mean, listen, you and I have talked about this before. I actually think that while you say they're not natural fit, I mean, listen, King Charles was very close with Joan Rivers. They wrote letters. They spoke on the phone. He would call and check how she is. And Joan was also close with President Trump. Sorry, you guys. I've known the Trump family for a long time. But I do think it was a long, slow clap of a speech. I love it. And I really hope that this does reset international relations. Now, I brought this photo up on the screen for a reason, because Tom was talking about how he hit all the markers, right? He talked about, he alluded to Epstein. Great, because he can't meet with the victims this trip, obviously. And how he touched on international relations, but he is obviously in bad health. And a lot of people are pointing to photos like this one with the king's hands. Now, Tom, I have a question for you, because how is this different? He's always said he has sausage fingers, all right? And they have always been sausagey. How is this photo different?
I just think that he has looked like his skin's been very inflamed, very sore. And of course, there's been a bit of extra focus on it because there's been this bruise on Trump's hand, which the Trump administration has always said is caused by shaking too many hands. But there's been a slight sort of running mystery throughout the administration. Although I have to say, it does seem jolly unfair, doesn't it, that Donald Trump, on his diet of Big Macs and Cokes, looks in rather hale and hearty compared to King Charles, who's been eating mushrooms and drinking cider vinegar.
Listen,
but, hey,
it's like Deng Xiaoping, the former leader of China, who smoked 90 cigarettes a day and lived till he was like 95, 89, 98, something, one of those. Long, hale, hearty. You know, I think it's the luck of the draw. But actually, and before we go, I do want to say, y'all know I don't like doing this, but I'm going to tip a hat. Kudos to Harry and Meghan for STFUing during this trip so far.
Yeah, well, let's hope they stay that way, because I thought what Harry did in the run-up to the trip, I thought was absolutely unforgivable. I thought it was actually cruel. And I thought it was just a really mean and shitty thing, actually, to do to your dad 3 days before he's going off on the most important diplomatic mission of his life. You know, so it's been in the works, in the planning for like well over a year.
Yeah.
For Harry just to turn up and go, oh well, yeah, I don't think America's doing enough. You know, it's like with his like 2-bit Polytechnic cafe analysis of like global events. I'm like, please spare me, you know. And I thought it was, you know, like, we won't get in. It's King Charles's day. He's having a fantastic day. And I don't want to get into it, but I do think that ultimately Charles is going to have to say something. But yes, let's hope that Harry and Meghan have the good sense to remain silent, remain quiet for the next few days. I think a little break from social media is always good for everybody. Yes. And what a great opportunity to take it, Meghan.
And Harry, cool your jet fuel, if you will, despite your environmental concerns. Calm it down. And yeah, all right, I just wanted to say thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you joining in and keeping up with us. I'm super psyched Tomo's here. Don't forget, like, subscribe. It still boggles the mind that so many people watch and forget to subscribe. This way, you subscribe, you'll know when we're always on, and you can join in the fraternal front. Fraternal front.
Oh, Polly, you forgot to say.
Oh, order of the lobster. The lobster is back in Ireland, so I brought the lobster to Tom. That's right.
I was appointed OOL. Order of the Lobster.
Oh, hell. It's a Frolician order, not quite royal, but there we go. All right, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.